everybody, welcome to this episode of The Sorting Hat, the show where everything and anything can and will be sorted. I'm your host, Michael Barryte, joined by my co-host, Brice.
This is a very special episode, folks.
I mean, it's just the two of us, which is an irregularity as far as our show goes. We were initially just like, hey, we could do like a Twitter episode, or like we could kind of go through the rides and experiences we had when we were
on
out
a vacation to Disney World together.
Yeah, we were brought out for Playlist Orlando, and we were like, well, while we're here, neither of us have been to Disney World, so we are going to be sorting our experiences at Disney World because neither of us have been. But right before we started,
oh man,
Reed's very distant uncle.
So here's the thing, folks. I maybe have talked a little bit about my family, and maybe not. So I'll just give you like the Reader's Digest version. I grew up with a pretty bad childhood. There's like a lot of abusive stuff. Trigger warning. You know, if this is something that would be intense for you, go ahead and turn back now. I'm not going to get into any details, but you know, it's hard. And so I kind of, in the last 2 years, decided, oh, I can't reconcile all the stuff that I went through with my mom, so I had to like cut contact with my mom.
Yeah. And
then I came out as trans and gay, and my family didn't take too easily to that because they're white trash. So I also kind of had to go like, oh, maybe we won't talk to each other either.
You've been parsing out a fair amount of your family.
You probably remember when I had my surgery in December, none of them called or texted or even sent a card saying good luck, hope you don't die on the surgery table.
Yeah, that was it was rough. Like, we had a handful of conversations about that, and so
by conversations he means like me sobbing on his shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't gonna be like, and here's the tell-all.
Yeah.
But so yeah, literally as we were about to record, I guess your very distant Uncle Dave just reached out.
And this guy is the king of the people in my family who were not super nice to me, especially growing up. Like when I probably did need like some distant relative to be like, hey, I should be looking out for this kid who's not being taken care of. And so he just out of the blue messaged me. And first of all, his opening was, what the fuck? I was just told your new name.
Which is a great opener.
And listen, I don't want to necessarily set myself up to be hurt, but I'm also a nosy bitch. And I want to know exactly why this dude who didn't invite me to his wedding, who I haven't talked to in probably 8 years, and whose daughter, the last time I saw her, asked me, hey, don't you think black people commit more crimes? To which I had to be like, no. So that's the last sort of like reception I've had at all with this part of the family. He's now saying, because as a nosy bitch, I was like, I need to find out where this is going.
Yeah.
I replied, how's it going, Dave?
Super cash.
And then he said, good. I don't talk to the family a lot, but I was just told you're not my niece anymore. You're my nephew, ?
Only one question mark, though. I'm impressed by that.
Yeah, so he's probably sober. I'm going to reply back, correct. Haha. What else should I say?
I mean, do you feel like you need to spell it out more, or do you want to keep it vague initially?
I think I should keep it vague. It kind of has to be like the thing when you're in like a tough negotiating.
Ooh, yeah,
you don't want them to know how you're feeling, and you don't want to be the first one to lean in or to speak.
So you're teasing out information. If he presses it, like, you can provide like, here's the Webster's dictionary of like what the situation is. But so this might be a running text thread as we sort through our experience.
So I'll keep
at
you
Disney
updated
World.
if anything else comes in through the ticker of my Facebook Messenger. But while we're waiting for that, Michael, you were telling me that you also were having some weird family interactions.
As far as
distant relative stuff going.
I have like heard through my father's mother's side of the family a distant relative who lives in Amsterdam, and he and his son, I believe, have reached out on 2 separate occasions just to like verify that I am who I am, and they're like kind of like low-key historians to my family, and they and one of them, the older one, George, he was like, oh, you're Michael, son of Stephen, like son of Shirley. Like
yeah, like we said before, it kind of sounded like he was talking to you like you were.
It
both
was
from
a
the
Lord
book
of
of Genesis.
Yeah, it was like a Lord of the Rings Genesis-y, biblical-esque. It's awful.
So
that
once he got through all the begots, what did he have to say?
Then he was like, "Oh, you're this person." And I was like, "Yes, I am." And then he was asking a few more questions, and there was like the weird part of me that was like, "This could be a stranger who's just like a very serious like stalker," but like, no, I've heard of him. And then he just sent me 2 images of family members' tombstones.
Oh God,
which,
like, that's so creepy.
Yeah,
what?
I don't remember the wife, but I remember Boris Barryte was one of them, and I was like, that's a dope alliterative
Boris
name.
Barryte is like a character on Popeye or something.
Yeah. And so it kind of goes in tow with some of the like naming conventions, because there's my father's brother is a Bernard Barryte, so there's the alliteration
so
there
Barryte's
as well.
Like the bee.
And then there's like my father's father is Maurice Barryte, so MB is another one that I guess like runs there. I'm sure there are like certain letter pairings that like always work well together, but in any case, we've got Disney World to be discussing.
We don't have any more Reese's or Borises anymore.
Here's the thing, we can bring them back.
Yeah. I mean, my friends did name their kid Egon, which I'm not sure if that's a name that was invented by Ghostbusters, but I'm really glad there's a child there's a person under 50 who's named Egon.
Right. There are certain names that you're like, I don't see those names around. Like my grandmother on my mom's side is a Sidell. I don't think
that's a beautiful name.
Right? I think Sidell's a great name.
It's not like a And apologies to anyone whose name that is this. I'm just saying it's not necessarily popular anymore. Not like an Agnes,
right,
or something like that. We're like, oh, when I hear the word Agnes, I can only think of an older person.
There's the weird, like, you just assume that those people came into existence and they were over 60.
Exactly. They just kind of flashed into being and were ready for soup.
Right. Which really, more of us should be ready for soup at any given time.
Oh, honey,
because
I'm so ready.
we need to have a sorting soup episode at some time. And really, the guest is negligible at that point. We'll just be talking soup. But yes, Disney World. Or has Dave responded?
Oh, well, I was like, okay, wait, I got to give him a little something to go off of.
Sure.
So I also wrote, after I said, correct, I am a nephew. I said, sorry, I didn't necessarily send out an announcement like, it's a boy.
I like I think this is the best case situation to be having. Like, it's a one-on-one situation, so you can be cluing him in a little bit more, but also you're past the point where it is necessarily as much of a stinging point for you, because you're like fuck it, this is where we're at now.
No, I've had a dude threaten to kick my ass last week for being trans and gay, so
right,
my dumb uncle, if he doesn't like it probably that's the opinion I thought he already had about it.
Right.
So we're going to find out all together, America and the rest of the world, if you're listening.
So as far as sorting bias goes, if you've never heard the show before, I'm a Ravenclaw, Reed is a Hufflepuff.
My Uncle David is probably a Slytherin. We'll see.
Maybe. We shall find out. But so we went to Disney World. We only went to 2 of the parks.
Yeah, we didn't go Magic Kingdom, but and we just made that sacrifice for time and because we live within driving distance of Disneyland.
Yeah, and while we understand that there are a few components of Pirates is a little bit different, and the Haunted Mansion facade,
it's going to be a
different
experience. But we were we want to see stuff that we know we can't see anything like it.
The newest and strangest shit. So we started at Epcot.
Yeah.
And we're probably gonna. This was a while ago, so we're not necessarily going to tackle all of the things. I definitely know we went to the Starbucks at Epcot, and we went to the Starbucks at Animal Kingdom.
Oh, great. I'm glad that all you remember from our very expensive vacation was the Starbucks. Probably because I dragged you into a lot of them, to be fair.
I mean, you like your coffee. I get that. And and it's since traveling to Europe with one of my friends who needs their coffee to sustain, I've become much more I understand you need your coffee. Whereas if that had been 3 or 4 years ago, I would have been fucking Reed. I'm moving on. Although we did have an instance at Animal Kingdom where the need for coffee kind of shot us in the foot a little bit.
Oh yeah. Oh God.
But we will get to that. So Epcot, what were the highlights for Epcot? There was the I forget the name of the ride, but it was the technology one where we like.
Oh yeah, it's the one where you are going through like the hothouse thing, right?
It's oh no, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking in the one inside the giant ball.
Oh, I see.
It was like advancements in technology. That's not what it's called, but and so this is already off to a great start as far as
guys,
clarity
this is
goes.
loosey goosey.
Yeah.
So we were talking about, I think, Project Tomorrow.
Yes, Project Tomorrow. And
Yeah.
that was also the situation where like we each got to pick like what our idealized futures were like.
Oh yeah, the little screen. Like,
Yeah.
that kind of like it takes a picture of your face, and it's very much like a cheap like video game that you would play at an arcade.
So that plays at the very end, showing like based on like what do you value most? What is it you hope that the future will hold? But while you are on the ride, it's showing some animatronics in humanity, showcasing like the great advancements in technology, which are really like and mostly about storytelling and communication, which are really where the biggest shifts in the world are, because it's like, okay, we're communicating through basic like oral storytelling. Then it's, cuneiform and hieroglyphics because we've got written text or like or pictographs before that.
Exactly.
And then actual written language, and then it kind of maintains and maintains and maintains, and then the Gutenberg printing press happens, and suddenly the Bible can be translated and be everywhere.
Yeah.
And then really it's until the internet, like things aren't clicking and happening, and then they're like, and that's where the future is. It was weird because the animatronics are actually really good.
But they're still animatronics, not necessarily in the super advanced style that you're seeing for stuff like now, because I think it is like at least 10 years old, right?
Sure. I was still very impressed from the more like nuanced looks of people and like the diversity across characters. Like when we were traveling through it was like they were like described as like the Muslim nations and talking about like math, and you see all these, and I was just like, the beard work on these guys is really impressive. Like,
Michael's always impressed by a good beard work.
Look, it's like facial hair on animatronics, I think is like pretty tricky.
Yeah, because you have to like get it to attach to the face, but then also like still not take away from being able to see any articulation, especially
exactly.
If they talk.
Yeah. So I was just impressed with that, and like some of the gesticulation was pretty cool because I'm the person who will watch an animatronic and try to see when the animatronic cycle starts again.
Yeah, that's always so fascinating. I'm going to say that this is the ride for the kid in your family who doesn't really necessarily need like a lot of thrills, and also
for sure
is the kid who's going to like be watching like how stuff works and the Discovery Channel a lot.
Yeah,
Your little nerd kid is gonna love this.
This feels like a Ravenclaw of a ride, personally.
Oh no, for sure. It's like it's gentle. It has some sense of humor, but it doesn't necessarily go off too much into like surrealism.
And it's also showcasing just, hey, there's learning. Like it's showcasing like knowledge and advancements in humanity and all of that good stuff. Has Dave responded? I'm seeing you pick up your phone.
Okay, guys.
All right, the update.
I might have to like take this answer and the rest of the conversation off of. We might not have time for me to like sit here and write out my responses, because he said, so when, why, how, and all three above. I didn't know he was an investigative journalist.
Sure.
I figured he was probably still in his refrigerator installation game, but I guess he must be working for CNN.
Yeah.
Because he wants the entire beat, honey.
I mean, you could take a pause and hit him with those deets, and we can just like cut this out.
Should I just like give him like the shortest answer as possible?
I mean, you can go as long or as short as you want.
Forever. How? God is mysterious. How? Medical science and crowdfunding.
He's going to come back with so many more questions.
And then I don't know what an all three above means, so we're going to find out There we go. I sent off the.
He's gonna need more explanations for that for sure. But let's move on to the next ride.
I bet I'm the first trans person he's ever talked to.
Here's the thing, like that. This is a seemingly right now anyway. Everything seems good with you and Dave. Like he seems interested, but not spiteful.
Yeah, I'm just on guard that it could be like the sort of interested that people are interested when they go to see a freak show in the 1910s.
He's teasing out information so then he can throw popcorn at you.
Either that or to have some hot goss for when he does go talk to the rest of my family.
That's fair.
Yeah, so I am
understandably guarded.
Hopefully my answers didn't come off as like being too flippant because I'm trying to keep it light while also protecting my my dignity.
Sure. Totally understandable. Then you hinted at it before because we're going all out of sequence. We did, it was something of the land, because the way Epcot, for those unfamiliar, is sort of divided. It's got like a technology side to things, kind of like Imagineers or Innovations.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Like Innovations. But then it also is like a tour of the world, which is a little bit unique because also Animal Kingdom has kind of a tour of the world, but like this is more country based than continent based as Animal Kingdom has. So there's like a China, a Japan, a France, a Canada, like, and each of those have various shops and restaurants. Like we had incredible pizza.
Yeah, in
while
the Italy
in Italy
section.
We had, it was like prosciutto on one side and like smoked salmon on the other, which
I would say in general Epcot, especially if you're like, I'm having trouble remembering all the things we did. It was basically because I curated for myself anyway to all be around the food that we would eat in each place.
Had like Reed is the person you want to be traveling with if you want to eat well, because
I will just Google this stuff in my spare time, even if I'm not going there.
Hands down, some of the best food I've had in my adult life. But there's also, in addition to those like country sections, there's the land and the sea. And we didn't really deal with the sea at all. But
I don't even remember that there was a sea part of the
because that's what the like Finding Nemo ride was a part of.
Oh, gotcha.
But like we didn't really
land
explore.
Was interesting because it was all about like sustainability and like learning about like how agriculture works.
Yeah.
So we went on this ride called it's called Living with the Land, and it's like and the thing about this was probably one of my favorite rides because it's very straightforward people mover that just takes you through a living like hothouse garden.
Yeah.
Where they grow a bunch of the food that they actually like then like use for the park's restaurants.
Yeah, which is so dang cool.
Yeah. And you can see that they do research on more efficient ways to do agriculture.
Right. And they're just testing out different growing methods. So like they're like, normally this plant is grown horizontally. We're trying growing it vertically. And we see that actually yields a better result.
Better crop. Or like they would figure out ways to be like, okay, also this water tank is using up a bunch of excess water for no reason, and these plants would necessarily be wasting water or not getting the right kind of nutrients. What if we connect this grow into this water tank, and then symbiotically the plants helping the fish that are in the tank, and the fish are helping the plants?
There was some really clever stuff like that. The fish like plant combo, I was like, that is so cool. And then there were fish tanks of just like different breeds, and they were talking about like different cross-pollinations of plants. I mean, this is either a Ravenclaw or a Hufflepuff.
I think it's probably closer to being a Ravenclaw just because
from the science angle.
It is just like you can tell how dedicated and passionate that department of Disney World is about stuff. But it is pretty dorky. Like you have to be someone who's like, I want to learn more about farming, and that's a very Hufflepuff statement to make.
Exactly.
So it's probably a coin toss there. Canada is a Hufflepuff.
Oh, I mean, Canada has this. Like, it's not a ride, but it has a 360 video that Martin Short is the host of.
It's called Oh Canada. and he just literally takes you. It's a like you said, it's 3D, so you can turn in any direction.
Yeah.
And it's basically just a way for them to show off really great aerial shots of Canada's different provinces and major cities.
And it ends with a far too long musical number.
And I still remember because it was way too long, and it went, Canada, Canada, the thing that's above United States. I don't remember the rest of it, but
Canada, like it went on for like 2.5 minutes. Oh, there was also the that's a Hufflepuff. Then there was the Soarin' over the world something.
Yeah. Which is like if you've been to the one in California Adventure, it's kind of similar to that one.
It's exactly like Soarin' over California. But I would describe that as like a Gryffindor, because this is like, let's see the world, let's get the sights. There's always like, I mean, it's just sweeping aerial shots, but you are soaring over it, and there's like the scent of pine or the spray of ocean, and
as far as dark rides go, this is definitely like one of the rides that you can tell has had a big influence on how new rides are created. It's a dark ride. You if you haven't been on it before, you basically get into like this like fake parasailing thing, and then it actually does get hoisted up into the air.
Yeah.
If you're in the front row, you actually do go up about 3 stories.
And it's a giant screen in front of you.
Yeah, so which basically takes up like your entire it curves into your peripheral vision, so you feel really immersed. They do like weird like 4D sort of like gimmicks, like if you're by the ocean in a scene, you'll smell the ocean spray. You might have a little mist coming in. If you're by orange groves, you'll smell orange zest scent and stuff. It's just cute, but it's also like, you feel brave. You feel like you are flying around and like experiencing new environments you've never been in before.
And that's what the ride should inspire, a sense of wonder and the just like, this world is so dang cool.
Yeah.
And makes me want to explore the rest of the park.
No, because it does take you back to Walt Disney World at the end.
Right.
So you can be assured that you did get back home safely, which is such a funny little cute detail.
And from there, I think it was after that we went to that weird Figment ride.
Oh gosh, yeah. This is a ride that didn't necessarily age too well, and it was already updated when we went on it.
Yeah, so it's like Eric Idle is an inventor, and he's trying to teach you about your senses.
Yeah.
And Figment, a purple dragon who has, as far as either of us know, no connective anything to any
representation
properties
outside of the park.
Right.
I think the Figment dragon guy was invented for the ride.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, but there's no original, like, there's not a Figment movie that exists somewhere our knowledge.
I kind of wish there was, because this like I said, this was it was renovated. It felt like in like the early 90s, late 80s. But the version before it looked super psychedelic. And if there is like any part of that park that I wish had a film, just so I could go and be like, what the hell was this?
Right.
It is the original ride's conceit of like, it looked like Willy Wonka sort of stuff.
Yeah, so what happens in the ride is Eric Idle is trying to teach you about the senses, but every time you're focusing on taste or touch or smell, the senses, Figment shows up and manages to make them crazy because he's the sense of imagination, basically. Yeah. And at the end, there's a song, I believe, and
there's always a song.
And Eric Idle joins in, and you're like, right?
Yeah, because he kind of gets like, he comes around to the idea that not everything has to be about the senses that you can perceive with the body.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is probably either a Gryffindor or a Hufflepuff, depending on how goofy you're willing to lean with a Gryffindor.
I would say this is probably a Hufflepuff, in my opinion, only because it's like the sort of like non-religious spirituality of like, there are more important things than what you can just see or touch or hear.
Right.
Yeah, but like not necessarily having anything intelligent to anchor it, which is very Hufflepuff.
Sure.
Yeah, just like, I'm in my feelings.
It's a looser ride.
Yeah, and the dragon is super cute.
Yeah.
Figment, in a Hufflepuff way.
Figment is quite adorable.
Yeah.
His personality a little bit less so.
But I want to say, this is probably a ride for a kid who's like under 8.
Oh, certainly
So-
we are not the target demographic for this ride by any stretch of the imagination. Pun intended.
So yeah. So besides that, there's France has the best food hands down of all of the different places.
We had
in
that. We
Epcot.
had that ice cream treat.
Yeah, there is an ice cream shop within the French Pavilion. They do like I don't remember if it was gelato, if it was just regular ice cream. But what they do is they take 2 pieces of brioche, and then they will sandwich in your choice of ice cream and like some sauce, and then they put it in a panini press and they press it together. So what ends up happening is you get a piping hot outside, and then still cold frozen ice cream on the inside.
It is incredible.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite desserts that I've had in a long time.
I was a little confused when Reed was initially describing it to me.
It doesn't sound like a big deal.
Right. And you don't think that it should work as well as it does.
Yeah.
But damn, does it work. And then, I mean, there were, in China, we got to see what Shanghai Disney is kind of like.
Oh, yeah. That's worth going to in the park, I think, just to go see, like,
the differences.
Because, like, the parks in Asia are really, really, like, getting competitive with, like, we're going to keep up with the American parks.
Tokyo Sea also is
Yeah.
apparently incredible because it's got like a 2,000 Leagues Under the Sea
Yeah.
ride and things. Like, it just in checking out like that showcase and like knowing about some of the other parks, it's like, oh, all the Disney parks in the East are just better. They
Right.
have a Tron ride that looks incredible.
Yeah.
They have a Pirates of the Caribbean ride that is different from any of the Pirates rides that we have.
Yeah, they'll sometimes even have there are different characters that
Yeah.
don't exist in North America at these Disney parks.
And then, and then we did Test Track.
Right, Test Track.
And we made the most ugly, fabulous car.
The way that this ride works is you go in and first you invent your own car using these templates on these flat screens. And then it kind of reminds me of the Cars ride at California
Yes.
Adventure. I imagine this was probably some sort of predecessor for it.
Mhm.
So in addition to just the aesthetics, you're also like setting up like what's the handling like, what's the speed like, what is the like.
What's the shape of the car like?
We made it. Ours looked worse than the car that Homer Simpson designed in that one episode of The Simpsons where he met his brother.
Yeah, it had like a triangle dent in the middle of it.
It bowed in the middle.
Very purposefully, but then we were also trying to like set the power to as high as it could go.
Yeah.
So we'd go super fast, but not be aerodynamic at all.
The main difference from the Cars ride is the Cars ride was basically about like do a really, really fast race through the environment. This one actually is testing the individual parameters that you set.
Right.
So the handling one would like suddenly like jerk us around and then stop really quickly to see like if our brakes were good.
Yeah.
We did end up, I think, overall winning the speed test, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Which we shouldn't have because we weren't paying attention to any of those like functional things at all. We were just like, how ugly can we make this?
Yeah. The car was like, I think, the design was just hideous and but it was still like great fun. And we were also, it's a situation worth noting that Reed is not somebody who necessarily likes herky jerky fast like roller coastery rides.
The specific things that I have problems with because I just straight up get scared is on roller coasters that have super high drops.
Oh,
I don't get the endorphin adrenaline rush thing that happens. I just get the fear, and then the fear doesn't turn into anything.
Yeah, so you were right in avoiding Expedition Everest.
No, yeah. Oh, that's because that's the other one in Epcot that was like a...
No, that's not Epcot. That's
Animal
there's
Kingdom.
Mission Space, which we didn't go on, but the
Right.
one in Animal Kingdom I did go on.
I there were just a few rides that I was like, man, the story sounds super cool, but
Yeah.
if I can't keep my eyes open for it, what's the point?
Does Test Track strike you as a Gryffindor or a Ravenclaw, or is it a Slytherin because it's sponsored by Chevrolet?
I think I would put it at a Slytherin because it makes you compete against other people
Sure.
for like can you even design a car? And you're like, girl, I just got here. And then at the end, there's a straight up show floor of cars that you can buy.
Yes, that was the thing that I was like shocked over, because I was like, oh, produced by Chevy or whoever it was, and then you walk out and you're like, oh, you can just straight up buy a car. So you spend, $109 to go to Epcot, and then you write a check for minimum $32,000 if you're just like, I just want to drive this thing. I mean, you can lease,
it's
of course,
weirdest,
or whatever.
I want to find out if anyone's ever bought a car from Disney World.
I like the idea that somebody just cuts the full check there and is like, there we go. There's $48,000, and then they drive.
I live in Alaska.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the person who is going to Disney World to buy a car, you cut the full check. That's just
no, of course, and then you probably drive it into the ocean for fun.
Right, you drive it into the ocean for fun, and then the gators have it.
So yeah, that's a Slytherin. Was there any other like major things at Epcot that we're thinking? Oh, I remember. It wasn't necessarily the flashiest place, but I really like the inside of the Mexican pavilion, because it was like unlike some of the other places, it's more inside. Was it inside like a Mexican pyramid? Was that the thing?
I do not remember.
Yeah, but you do go inside and down, and then there's like a really cool effect of like feeling like you're back outside, but at night.
It is the most obvious place for a Coco ride to take over.
Yeah.
Currently, there's the
Three Caballeros.
The Three Caballeros, which is a fun little ride. It's just the two of them trying to find where Donald is, and then we like cut through Donald in live action footage of just like getting lost, and then the other two birds searching.
This is where if you are like, it's hot out, I need to get off my feet for a minute, go get in line for that ride, because we went through the line really quickly.
Oh yeah,
and it's just a nice way to like relax.
And it's probably a Hufflepuff of a ride.
Yeah, it's very cute because it's like just these cute parrots, and is the other one a rooster?
Yes.
Yeah. and they just take you through like you just get to see different parts of Mexico that's super beautiful, and then Donald like interacting with it.
Also, the inside area has like a great vendor wares area that really, if you've been to like just a street vendor market space, like they capture that aesthetic very, very well.
Yeah, it's like definitely like what a rich person thinks like a street marketplace would look like. Exactly. It was too clean and
I mean, sure, it's cleanly, but like that, because I've been to Mexico only once, and it was on like when I was 8, and it like had me have serious flashbacks to when I was like wandering around the street in this like one area, and there were the little like push you like push the bottom, and the thing's like wood and string, and it like collapses.
Like the little mannequin guy.
I saw one of those while I was there, and I like snapped back to my childhood, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so real. Like
those sort of tchotchkes aren't really made anymore.
Yeah, but that like, and maybe it's not necessarily a Mexican tchotchke, but that's always what I associate with Mexico. Gotcha. Strangely.
No, but it's a very cute little quaint area. Yeah. That I think is like one of the prettier parts of Epcot. I don't think there's necessarily anything else in Epcot
that we particularly did that stood out.
Because I feel like Animal Kingdom was like the big event for us.
Animal Kingdom, I mean, Animal Kingdom was huge. Let's dive into that then.
Sure.
Are there any family updates?
He didn't answer back yet, but I will give him that my answer was very vague.
Sure.
So I probably need to
do a second follow-up.
I'm going to go, hold on, I can give more in-depth answers in just a bit.
Sure.
So I would say Animal Kingdom started off with probably one of my favorite moments of the whole day. We walked in as the park opened,
right?
And they were playing the opening from The Lion King, The Circle of Life, and Michael Barryte almost started crying.
I got pretty emotional.
Because you are very much the wants to be out in the middle of the forest kind of guy.
Yes.
And they did a great job of emulating that.
Oh,
especially in the opening of the park.
The production design in this park is so good. I hate how impressive it was.
Yeah, it like makes you feel weird because you're like, oh man, maybe we do live in a simulation. Maybe Elon Musk is right because they just like made this happen.
They made it. It's so good, and so like
in the middle of a swampland, the Amazonian rainforest is just there.
Well, and our thing was we heard that the rides related to Avatar were incredible. So as soon as we got to the park, we were like, we are going to that. And then as soon as I got in line, Reed was like, but I need coffee.
Yeah,
and
we got to Pangea and I was like, where's the Starbucks?
Pandora, not Pangea.
You know what?
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't even know if I saw all of Avatar the movie.
Look, I just know if I don't correct you, somebody else will send the tweet, so I'm doing it
Somebody
here.
who's angry, like a super big Avatar fan.
They exist. Everybody saw the movie. But yeah, it was, so Reed and I wound up getting separated because as soon as
I just immediately wandered off and then the line started moving.
And as soon as they left, I was like, I'm gonna hang back. Like, and I tried to kind of stay in the line while still moving forward. And like the way that the line is set up, there are like different checkpoints, as it were, where you're like handed things.
At a certain point, he couldn't wait for me anymore. So we knew that this might be the only time we'd be able to get on the ride because apparently it has like the longest wait time of any ride in all the parks.
Although we did wind up riding it a second time.
And we'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Because besides the whole snafu of us being separated and have to ride apart from each other, that ride is probably the best theme park ride I've been on.
It is incredible.
Yeah, it's called the Flight of Passage?
Rite of Passage.
Are you sure?
Or maybe it's the Flight of Passage.
I feel like it had like a snappy name. Like,
it probably, yeah. I mean, it's the something of passage. It is incredible.
Yeah.
So the basic layout, it requires that everybody is loaded, and by everybody, like all these different groups are loaded in, and it's a similar thing to the Soarin' ride at Epcot, where it's a huge screen that everybody is viewing.
Yeah, this is a dark ride. Yeah.
And you are seated in what is basically a sport motorcycle.
Which makes me think, this like I can't confirm it because I haven't done enough research. I feel like maybe the Tron ride in Shanghai Disney might have been the precursor to this because it looked very similar to how you would sit on the Tron ride because it's like a motorcycle ride. And
so you sit down on what is supposedly going to be like a link to your avatar.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is when you sit down, the leg cuffs, like your legs get cuffed in.
Yes.
So they're pushed up against what you're sitting on, and the seat like snaps in behind you and pushes you forward.
Which, like, when it first happens, my immediate feeling was like, oh my gosh, they somehow just didn't mention that this has a huge drop. I'm gonna die.
And here's the thing, it kind of does have a huge drop.
Yeah.
But the sense of wonder that you experience, because the minute that the avatar link happens and you are now inhabiting the body of the Na'vi that you're avataring, and you're riding a banshee,
which is like a dragon thing.
Which is like a multi-winged dragon thing. Suddenly, the reason that your legs have been pushed in is because you can feel the breathing of the banshee against your legs.
Yeah, it has some sort of like accordion sort of like expanding thing in it that just simulates breath of an animal.
It is insane.
It's hard to describe it because like you don't, like he said, you don't literally do a drop because it's a dark ride, but they have really refined the technology of mirroring the difference of like, okay, how much of a subtle move can we make with the actual piece of the ride that you're on?
Because you're just rotating a little bit. It's no more than a simulator would as far as tilts are concerned. So it can't be more than like 15 degrees.
And I'll just let you know that it is very like exhilarating. And I'm a giant baby, so like if I can handle it, as long as you can like, as long as you're like tall enough and like meet all the requirements to fit in properly.
We walked out of this thing so amped.
Yeah. Yeah, like we like I met up with Michael afterwards, and he was like he was just like calmly sipping and drinking. I was like, oh, this guy's having a great time.
Yeah, no, and like this is coming from I'm not necessarily somebody who liked Avatar as a film,
Yeah.
but I was all in on this ride.
No, and that's what makes me think that this is also a corporate conspiracy. I think this is James Cameron making the most expensive promotional material in film history.
Sure.
Like $1 million ride for a movie that hasn't come out yet.
Well, I mean, the first one came out.
But I think I think that like at this point, like I don't know anybody who's like, man, my favorite movie is Avatar.
Oh,
but I do know that I heard multiple people saying, yeah, I'll probably go watch this sequel when it comes out now.
Sure,
Yeah.
whenever that is. And it's 3 movies. It's not just one.
It's going to be 2 more movies, or it's going to be 3 more movies?
3 more movies.
There's gonna be
Avatar
4?
2, 3, and 4. And that is going to be a trilogy,
Gotcha.
apparently. But like one of the reasons that it's taking so long is because they need to figure out the underwater photography.
Because of course he's like, no, I got to rebuild the camera now.
Yeah,
that's just James Cameron's thing.
James Cameron loves being underwater, and he also, like, while I don't love his personality all the time,
Yeah.
I do love the fact that Avatar is a large environmental protection message.
Yeah.
So to that
because he's
end,
very
my hat's off.
He is very much like, he's always been like super terrified of like nuclear technology. That's what basically the basic conceit of Terminator was inspired by. Was he was like, we're gonna invent technology that will kill us all. And
Yeah.
he just made the killer robot the analogy. And the new Terminator, he's more scared of like straight up like the algorithms and artificial intelligence actually is more of the focus than the anti-nuke stuff in the original film. And in this one, he's really showing off like his concern for the environment, and then also like, I don't know, like a vague like anti-imperialism.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's fairly overt considering we are storming in, and then it's Dances with Wolves, basically.
Yeah, it's like it's Dances with Wolves and Pocahontas. But then, like, if he really cared about the message of that film, he shouldn't have made the ride be basically, now we're gonna let it make it so you can go on a vacation inside of a living creature, a human, like something that's like a human like.
Well, yeah, there's a weird morality angle there where you're like, so the avatars, and this is me not remembering the movie, the avatars are soulless dead individuals.
They're like
that were
clones that don't have that like a soul,
something like that, and we're uplinking into them so we can hair fuck creatures.
We're first of all, we're playing God and creating basically a new organism because it has the DNA of the Na'vi and has the DNA of humans,
right?
And then we're just throwing these living creatures who just don't have their own consciousness into the wilderness. We
Jurassic Parked a safe situation with the Na'vi. It's crazy, but it's also either
it's
Gryffindor
Jurassic
or
Park
Slytherin.
And Ender's Game put together.
You're leaning for it to be a Slytherin, correct?
I think overall it's a Slytherin, but man, it was a sexy ass Slytherin. That ride was so fun.
The ride in isolation is a Gryffindor. The ride within the context of where it is a Slytherin.
Yeah, as you get off the ride, make sure that you go, especially if it's a hot day, and get
those night blossoms.
It's a special like frozen slushy drink.
Yes.
That has like these it's like a boba ball, but it's the kind that isn't solid.
It's lychee and it
kind of bursts in your mouth. So refreshing.
And sour apple slushy.
Yeah.
And if you read, you can get it in a novelty mug.
Everybody was like getting on my case, because here's the thing, folks. I love a novelty cup. Do I still have a cup from a fast food barbecue place in Sacramento when I went on a weekend concert one time? Yes. Do I have a cup from a place that I didn't even remember the name of, called it Pangea? Yes.
But here's the thing, like, I'm not necessarily knocking you on the novelty cups, because you're able to go, I'm having such a bomb-ass time that I want to have a physical embodiment of that. So anytime that you hold that, you go like, I remember this bomb-ass drink that I had at this great ride that I had with one of my best friends.
All right.
And then we went on the other ride, which is, I was less impressed by the other Na'vi ride. The other Na'vi ride, which is just like, hey, you're on like a slow ass river ride, and like the animatronics of the Na'vi are pretty impressive.
Yeah, there's one dude in there who I guess is like the hippie of the Na'vi, and that was like the most like ambitious of the animatronics that were inside of it.
Yeah,
But
there's some deep spell casting as far as like the arms are just like waving about.
Otherwise, it's like a dark boat ride with scrims in the distance, and it gives you I think like pretty clever sense of depth and perception.
Yeah.
Because it's making you feel like you are just in the middle of the area, and then in the distance you can see the Na'vi just doing stuff.
Right.
On video screens.
It's probably more of a Hufflepuff of a ride, though.
Yeah.
Like, it's a Hufflepuff as far as sensibility goes, although you could give it a Gryffindor just for, like, hey, as opposed to just presenting, like, a video, you tried to do some really inventive stuff. And we're pretty damn ambitious with it.
It was what I imagined.
Although maybe that makes it a Slytherin, because they were fusing a lot of different elements, so you're being really clever.
So when A Small World opened at the original Disneyland, I have to imagine that it was probably super impressive looking, but kind of just, it's a small world. And then
After all.
And then it aged not super great.
Sure.
I imagine that's probably kind of what it's going to be like. Like maybe the native stuff will get more cringy to sit through over the years, and we can't say for sure how the technology that they're using is going to age, because some of it's like new. So yeah, overall I would give it like a very Hufflepuffy Slytherin is my best guess.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah.
And as far as the Night Blossom goes, where are you gonna sort that? Because we might as well sort the Night Blossom.
I'm gonna put the Night Blossom itself as a Gryffindor, because you kind of like, you feel like it's like a safe way to feel like you're trying something new. If you're not the most adventurous eater, I would say you're gonna look at this and go, is this gonna be good? And I'm gonna say this one will have the sort of like it's not gonna be too overwhelming for you if you have like a more limited palate.
As far as also limited palate and adventure goes, there were the cheeseburger pods.
That's what I was getting to.
Oh,
yeah,
great.
There's a really cool sort of, like, it's supposed to be the mess hall that the military industrial complex base is hanging out in, and in there they have like general like cafe sort of food, but then they always put in a couple of like gimmick foods, and this one they were called cheeseburger pods. But all they are is, if you know what bao are, I think that's how you say it. They're like the Chinese. I think sort of like dumplings.
Yeah.
Like they're kind of like steam buns, and instead of filling them with like just like pork or anything traditional, they're just filled with like ground up cheeseburgers. Yeah,
it's just cheesy meat in a dumpling.
It's very weird to bite into a Chinese inspired food that has ketchup and mustard inside of it.
Yeah, I wanted to like it more than I did.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, okay. I think also what I was thrown by was the texture of it, because the like the dumpling outside was like smooth and soft, and then it was like
the bun itself was actually fairly decent in terms of, it had the if you've never had bao before, it kind of has the texture of a soft pretzel, but not as thick, but you still want a little bit of a snap to it. And then inside it was very nice and doughy, and that's what you want from a good steam bun.
Yeah, but then the inside of this,
it was weird.
It was just too tough. Like the meat was like chewy, and it. Yeah.
I would say that it was disappointing in that it kind of felt like something you could get out of the freezer aisle at a grocery store.
It might have been something that there was a vegetarian option, and like we both got the cheeseburger. I feel like one of us should have gotten the vegetarian, and then we could have been like,
figure it out. Yeah.
But
it's kind of like they let Guy Fieri invent a food for the restaurant. It was very strange. I would put that one as a Hufflepuff for sure.
Sure.
If only because like a Hufflepuff would be like, oh, of course I'll try that food. Can I have cheeseburger flavor? Or chicken nugget flavor?
Right. It's like the person who still wants the comfort, like still wants extreme comfort while like Oh, that looks strange. Well, now
Again,
I feel okay.
We probably are judging this with our adult sensibilities, but this was probably invented for the 5-year-old in your family who's like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to eat anything except cheeseburgers all weekend.
And now I'm blanking on a handful of things that we did in the middle of the day. Oh, no, I just remembered. Okay, we did the dinosaur ride.
The dinosaur, okay. Does anybody remember the Disney animated film Dinosaur?
From 2000.
Not a Pixar film, but it was computer generated.
Yes, although I will say the Good Dinosaur is also not a great dinosaur film, and that is by Pixar.
Oh, is it?
Oh, so The Good Dinosaur, if I can just sidebar for a moment.
Go ahead.
The Good Dinosaur was a movie that went through various iterations of production, had a voice cast, completely scrapped that voice cast and reworked its plot.
Whoa.
And it is a Western, a sleepy Western where apatosauruses are ranchers, and Arlo, our main character, who works at the storehouse with his farming family of apatosauruses.
This is a Pixar film?
Yes.
Why have I never heard of this
Because
movie?
it came out in November after Inside Out, so it was just buried under the everything around Thanksgiving time. And a human boy upsets the store and they lose all their crops, and then a flood takes him as he's chasing the boy, so it becomes a boy and his dog, but it's a dinosaur and his human.
Gotcha.
As he wanders around, and Sam Elliott plays a Tyrannosaurus who is a rancher or something. Yeah. Oh, the apatosauruses are farmers. The Tyrannosauruses are ranchers and or shepherds. And then they're velociraptors or pterodons. I don't really remember.
Why do I not remember
And they're
this?
bandits. Because here's the thing. None of that information was in any of the trailers. So I watched this film and suddenly was like, wait, this is a genre piece.
So they marketed just to be we're going back in time, and then you get there and you're like, oh, actually we're in a different dimension.
Yeah, this is it's they pitched it as what if the asteroid missed the Earth, and so it's just
oh, and dinosaurs evolved to have the sentience of humans.
Well, and dinosaurs and humans lived in the same world. That was the pitch for this.
When you said the human was his dog, that reminded me of some information that I recently learned that is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that the way that we see puppies, we just love them, we think they're adorable.
Yeah.
That's how elephants see us. That's why elephants they're not super standoffish, because they see us and go, what's that cute little thing?
That's fantastic.
We are cute animals that they want to pet, so that when a baby elephant ever comes to you and you're freaking out over it, it's freaking out over you.
So it's the it's the exact same but reverse of spiders.
Exactly.
And mice and all that. So so The Good Dinosaur is insane. It also has a drug trip sequence in it.
Okay, Pixar, that's too many things happening. You get to have a fish who's lost, or you get to have a car that drives,
a car that does exactly the things that
or
it
a
does.
toy that has a story. You don't get to have Western dinosaurs who get lost and there's a drug trip in it.
Yeah, no, it is a bonkers movie that is definitely near the bottom of the Pixar barrel, right around Cars 2, where Mater becomes knighted by the Queen of England car.
Of course he does.
Yeah, so he's Sir Tow Mater in Cars 3, just for the record.
Love it.
But Dinosaur, the 2000 movie that nobody saw,
and
became a
honestly, it was a ride. It was fine.
It's kind of got if you've ever ridden the Indiana Jones ride in Disneyland in California, in Anaheim, it is the same sort of herky-jerky nature. The plot around this, because there's a plot in this ride, in the wonderful ride in Dinosaur Land, USA, is...
I forgot that's where it is.
Yeah, you need to remember that in Animal Kingdom, there is Africa, Asia, Dinosaur Land USA, and Pandora. It's an
Yep.
interesting hodgepodge. But yeah, so the premise is there's a time traveling vehicle that we are all told to ride in to get
Because there's like a hotshot scientist at the Time Travel Institute that wants to go his own way.
Yeah, I like the idea of just the Time Travel Institute. That's a fun, like, oh, did you make it into the Time Travel Institute? I didn't, but I'm working on changing that.
Yeah, so you're this guy, he's supposed to just go do, I think, some basic information gathering, but he's like, let's just bring home a dinosaur. And of course you're like, of course let's go bring home a dinosaur.
And then they're like, no, you can't because there's going to be a meteor shower. And then he's like, it's fine. Even though I have a time machine, I'm going to put you 5 minutes before the meteor shower.
It's just a dumb ride, but it's like pretty fun. It was made around the time that I think not too long after the movie came out, so it has aged a bit. So you gotta lower the expectations.
There's like the carnivore dinosaur that keeps showing up as you're like, gotta find a dinosaur. Nope, that's a whatever or whatever.
And that dude is legitimately a little bit terrifying, even as an adult. So I will say, if you go on with a kid, just let them know there are a couple scary points.
There is a point where that thing runs next to your car a little bit, and I was seated next to it and was like, actually, I was jarred for a moment. I was like, holy
so like
shit,
certain
this
parts of
thing's
it
moving.
are super like feel low rent, and then other points I think because they like got the lighting correctly,
they lull you into a false sense of security that it can actually startle you.
But like that and the whole damn Dinosaur USA place is a Hufflepuff, in my opinion.
It's like the technology around it is probably a Gryffindor or a Ravenclaw.
And probably even more so when the park first opened.
Sure,
yeah.
But in its current state, it's a Hufflepuff.
So you went on Expedition Everest. Tell us, you're going to have to unload this whole thing for me because I decided to be a big baby and sit it out.
Goodness. Expedition Everest, like I'm split between the first ride we went on, the Pandora one, or Expedition Everest as being like my favorite ride at Disney World.
Wow.
Because Expedition Everest, like you start walking towards this mountain that you see across the lake and like behind this giant tree, which again, the production design in this place is incredible.
Like so much attention to detail. Yeah.
So you're walking towards this thing and you're like, oh, that kind of is like for me, I was like, oh, my reference point is this is like the Matterhorn at Disneyland in Anaheim. And you start walking towards it and you realize this thing is like 8 times the size of the Matterhorn. It is huge. And so you get on it in the area that's kind of like India. And because, that's where Everest is. Nepal, right?
I think so.
Yes. Yeah. I'm looking real ignorant if not.
It's in Asia somewhere.
Yes.
Right?
So you get on this ride, you start to like climb up the side of the mountain. And as you pass through like this little hut that just has like some painting up on the ceiling, like right above the thing you're passing through.
Right.
It's just like, there's a Yeti. Like that's all you really get. It's just like on the mountain, there's a scary Yeti.
Yeti ahead,
And so you're like, okay, this is again a lot like the Matterhorn.
Yeah.
And so suddenly you like start bobbing and weaving and like going around and you're like, oh, this is kind of fun. And then you make a turn and you stop abruptly because you see in front of you the track has been bent up. And you're like, what the hell?
Like you can't go any further?
Yeah, like the track's been just like ripped up by something huge.
Yeah.
And so there's no way that you can go forward. And suddenly I realized, oh my goodness, we're going to go backwards. We're going to go backwards. And then we shot backwards and I just started screaming, this is so clever. Oh my God, this is so clever because I was so absolutely...
That's the only thing I wish I could have been there for is you just geeking the hell out.
It was just like this fun flashpoint moment for me realizing what the ride was about to do. And so you go backwards down a different route and then you like lurch up. So you're then looking down and you hold for a moment as this video sort of plays as the shadow of a Yeti like jumps out in front of your toboggan or whatever you're in,
God,
and then is
terrifying.
like makes some noises, and then as it like starts to lurch forward, again, it's just a shadow, it's not like an animatronic
Yeah,
or
yeah.
anything, you shoot down into darkness, and then you like whip around a ton, and it is just so dang delightful. It,
Is the ride a little bit smoother than like the Matterhorn? You're not like feeling like you're gonna like hurt your back, or is it similar to that?
it is comparable, I would say. Granted, I haven't ridden the Matterhorn in a while. I have the general habit of not going to Disneyland for a while, so I can sort of forget what certain components of the
Gotcha.
park are, so then I can like re-experience for the first time.
We should go so we can sort the Disneyland.
Well,
together.
I mean, we did some of that with Sarah.
Yeah, but I want to do Michael's Disneyland experience.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So, and then would you say that like it was kind of like if you put the Matterhorn and like Indiana Jones together, like that part with like the giant ball?
A little bit, yeah. Because it does have that like pull back, shoot down thing, and it sends you into darkness. So there's like a lot more, or there's a lot less that you're seeing compared to either, I would say, the Matterhorn or Indiana Jones. So I would liken this either between a Ravenclaw just for like some clever engineering, or a Gryffindor purely from like the story that it's telling of you. Like
and
climbing up
you
Everest.
don't see the Yeti, right?
You see a shadow. Maybe you do see the Yeti at one point.
But it's not like the Matterhorn where it's like a mannequin that's like you shoot past.
I feel like it's better implemented in.
Because I always am of the opinion for that sort of thing, or especially for horror movies, don't show the creature.
Yeah.
The less you can show of the creature, the more that the audience has to fill in with their mind, and they can always do a much better job than what you're going to be able to do with materials that will immediately start dating themselves.
Right.
So, if you didn't really see much of the Yeti at all, that probably really played into like the exhilaration of it.
Oh,
like at any moment,
everything
it could
about
jump
it was
on
good.
you.
Yeah, that was like very exciting, and there was a part of me that was like, I want to go again, but then we realized, we can ride the rite of passage, flight of passage.
Yeah, and that one was another one, like, who knows when we're going to be back here.
Exactly.
We better get back on that ride.
And I didn't want to be the dick who was like, wait around some more for me, as I like, but we were like, no, we'll go do that, and that's a win in...
Yeah.
And then I think the last thing that we did in Animal Kingdom...
the safari ride, right?
The safari ride, yeah.
Which is... it is a literal safari. They have like a small zoo built into the animal kingdom, mostly of like animals from the African subcontinent or continent. Yeah, continent.
Yeah,
Asia's the subcontinent. And you are in an actual like Jeep with a driver, kind of like the Jungle Cruise if you've been to Disneyland. And they have a bunch of jokes with terrible puns. And you just go around. They show you lions,
but unlike the Jungle Cruise, these are all real animals.
It's not animatronics.
And like we saw some giraffes that were just like hitting one another.
They were smacking their necks together really hard to the point that they were kind of like whipping around and like tangling. And you're like, that seems like something that would happen in a cartoon.
Yeah, and we saw some elephants.
Yeah,
you saw all the staples of what you would see on a safari. We saw.
Yeah, it's very much like that feeling of like, if you brought your kids with you, or, if you're with somebody you love, this is just a really great way to like sit down and just take things in and like know that your kid is going to see a lion maybe for the first time in their life. But it's super safe. And overall, I thought that the feeling that it gives you is very like Gryffindor of like, we're going to, go through these like across this rickety bridge that's super safe.
Right.
We're going to go past some lions that are probably
in
tired.
an enclosure.
Yeah. So I would say it's like a safe Gryffindor.
There's the part of me that feels that it could be a Slytherin because it's really an exhibitionist like trip in every sense.
Yes.
Just with like the pomp and circumstance, I suppose, of like, but look, we're so noble in the fact that we're allowing you to see this.
And also like, and we're taking care of these animals. Because in general, like, I have mixed feelings about zoos depending on if like, what their angle is. If they are trying to be a conservation resource and take care of animal populations, that's one thing. But most animal zoos today are still woefully like below the bar of like the basic needs of these animals to keep them from being distressed.
Yeah.
And you couldn't really tell too much if like what kind of job they were doing
Right.
with this part of the park.
I mean, I will go so far to say that it seemed like all the animals had a good amount of space to be moving about.
Like Disney World's fucking huge.
Yeah.
So there was plenty of place for them to run around, but you just kind of go like, oh, is this where this animal wants to be in an environment like the swamplands of Florida?
Right.
You just can't tell. So I would say like that would be the Slytherin angle to me.
Yeah.
Is like knowing like, are these animals like living their best life?
And and moving out of the park, we closed things out at this incredible restaurant that Reed recommended. That's Jiko is what it's called.
I think it was spelled Jiko, and it's a couple of restaurants that Disney World has within and around the Animal Kingdom. This was over at the Animal Kingdom Lodge, and it is like African food.
Yeah.
And it was top notch.
Holy hell, was it good?
Oh my gosh. Like, it's a more of a fine dining experience, which I didn't think was...
Neither of us.
We were not dressed for it.
Yeah, but there were a few people who were also like us wearing t-shirts.
Yeah, but you go in, there are definitely people wearing suits and dresses, because
Yes.
this is like the place you take a nice date.
Right. Some people were having their anniversaries and like, you know, this is their honeymoon or something like that.
Yeah, and they have like one of the most impressive African wine lists outside of Africa, but we were like, Diet Coke, please. We're fucking gross tourists who want that.
Man, that would like if you go to Disney World, I cannot recommend this place enough. If you have a little money to splurge on, like it arguably was not as like I felt overall prices were not crazy
it's not the
inflated.
French Laundry. You're gonna spend like maybe $40 a plate.
Right.
So it's not gonna be the cheapest meal you have. But if you're going as a food tourist, I definitely say it's one of the ones you want to check out.
It's worth it for sure.
And I would give that one definitely a Gryffindor sort of sorting. Another restaurant that you unfortunately were not able to go to with me and another person we were traveling with. Was called Ohana.
Yes.
This is the option I would say if you want to have a fun family situation. It is Ohana. So it's like over in the sort of like Pacific Island area of the resort areas. I don't think it's in any of the parks. And it definitely makes you feel like, oh, this is like Lilo and Stitch sort of vibes, even if it's not necessarily strictly a Lilo and Stitch attraction. And it's family style dining that is like Pacific Islander sort of food.
Yeah.
And it's all you can eat. So if you're on a budget and you want to just like get your money's worth.
We're playing the buffet game with Reed, which is the game that they play the best.
Yeah. And so like, they bring you tons of food, and then they have like an MC sort of host who walks through the restaurant all the time and like entertains you as you're eating. So you feel super like, I guess like they really want to foster the idea like you're here, you're our family for the evening.
I was very upset that I could not partake, but I was so exhausted.
No,
that
a big
day.
part about Disney World that you have to understand is if you don't give yourself 3 or 4 days, you're gonna want to die at the end of each day.
We went hard, and also the night before I just like did not sleep well. But it overall, the experience at both Epcot and Animal Kingdom was incredible. If you are limited to a single day, I would definitely skew you towards Animal Kingdom. If you're looking for,
I would say if you have never been to a Disney park, it would be between Animal Kingdom or Magic Kingdom, in my opinion.
And then if you're looking for food, Epcot's
for
great.
Sure. If you like, I want to try a bunch of different things. Yeah.
And then if you're looking for rides, it's Magic or Animal Kingdom. And with that, I think we're good and sorted through our trip.
Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have any more updates from my uncle. But he probably wants like a more extensive answer than
itemized list of all the beats.
He was like, "When did this happen?" I just said forever. That's not an answer. I'll let y'all know if any like good juicy drama happens. I'll give you guys like a text update that you can put in the description.
Right.
Or you can do like a postscript. We can like have like I'll just like send you a recording of what happens.
Yeah, you absolutely can, and I can tack that on.
At this point, the sorting hat listeners are closer family than this dude is to me. So
What a very real roast.
Yeah. No, it's not a roast on him as much as it is just like the people who listen to us, and you know more about my personal life, my intimate life than my blood family does, just because I can't deal with people who are gonna not use my correct name and the pronouns, and
no, that makes sense.
I don't know what this trashy dude's gonna say to me, but if it's good, I'll make sure you all know. Don't worry about it.
Hey, maybe he is an enlightened individual who has become incredibly woke.
Oh, by the fact that I saw him wearing a very racist Halloween costume a couple years ago, I'm not sure that that's necessarily going to be the case.
Wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt.
But we're going to see what happens.
Okay. And with that, if you want to be following more from either Reed or myself, you can follow Reed at That Dang Dingus on Twitter. You can follow me at Belated Media. You, of course, can be following and responding to all of our polls at sortinghat_pod on Twitter.
If you could, if you got time, please leave us a review. It really helps us to boost our listeners.
Yes.
But also it helps us know what you like, what you don't like, and I really want to hear back from you.
Yes. So we maybe have a few more of these more just one-on-one riff sessions in the future, but you'll be hearing more from us on another episode of The Sorting Hat. Bye, guys.
Bye.